Hi, this is Martin Matthews.
And I'm Chelsea Matthews.
And this is the Love and Money Show.
Let's face it, women want more financial security.
And guys want more sexual fulfillment.
These are the two biggest areas of conflict in relationships, and we're going to talk about them both.
We're going to help you transform your life through transforming your finances and relationships and help you build an unbreakable financial house.
And live the life you really want to live.
Welcome to the Love and Money Show. My name is Martin Matthews.
And I'm Chelsea Matthews. Our mission is to transform your life through your finances. We're authors of this book, Let's Fight About Money. We talk about how to communicate about money, how to handle conflict, and build an unbreakable financial house. And today we're going to talk about taking financial responsibility, how self-reflection can lead to self-correction.
Yes. So, very important topic, and I'll open this topic up with a quick story. And this has to do with, we're very fond of talking about conflicts, different conflicts that Chelsea and I have. In fact, our whole book is about how we handle these conflicts in our own relationship. So it makes me think back, this self-responsibility thing makes me think back to a time where in our business, because we're both in business together, in our business, there was this software that came out. We have a financial business. There was this cool, really new software that I thought would really, really help our business. I thought it would help us accelerate the growth of our business. And just a quick background in some of our previous episodes, we've talked about how I'm a spender and Chelsea's a saver. So that tends to lead to the conflict. Okay, that tends to lead to the conflict. And so I tend to want to spend to expand the business. And Chelsea tends to want to save more when money flows into and want to save more. So this conflict that I'm thinking about, this story here, comes from one time when I wanted to spend on some software. It's brand new software in the industry. It was really new. It was very expensive. And they did not even have a trial version for this software. So you had to buy it, and you had to fly down across the country and learn how to actually use it. And so I thought this would really, truly transform our business. So I told Chelsea about it, and I said, hey, there's this software that's out, and a new version's coming out. It's going to be even better than the last one. We have to get this. And what were you thinking when I first said that to you?
Well, for one, I thought it was a really big investment, and I wasn't necessarily comfortable with it because it was more than I wanted to spend. And this is before we were married, before we combined our money, and he was wanting me to invest in it too. And here's
at that time, she wanted to combine business. We were in a relationship, and we're working on combining our businesses. And so I thought, we could benefit from this, and so I wanted her to go in with me on this software.
Yeah. And so this made me feel really uncomfortable because I felt some pressure. We hadn't yet combined our finances, and I was feeling pressure like, okay, if I don't do this, am I saying, is he going to think I'm like not all in on our business or not all in on our relationship? But then what happened is it brought up some red flags for me based on some past experiences that I had. Now, this money that I eventually ended up using and what I was looking at using was money I'd been waiting for a while, and it was not meant for spending on something like this. So I was having some mixed, feelings about this, and what it brought up for me is here's another guy telling me what to do with my money and trying to take advantage of me because it's happened before, because I'm a jerk magnet and I'm really good at finding all the bad ones. This is what this line of thinking started coming up for me. And I actually started being afraid of having money, because I was afraid that every time I had money, a guy was going to come talk me into using it. And so then I said, okay, wait a minute. I know that Martin is not like one of the jerks that I dated, because I took a year before I met Martin. I took a year thinking about what kind of man I wanted in my life, in our son William's life, all of the qualities that were really important to me. And then I thought, okay, who do I have to become to attract that kind of person? So I knew that Martin wasn't just one of the jerks that I had dated that took advantage of me. So I thought, why are these feelings coming up for me? And what I realized is that I looked at what I learned from past experiences. You may have seen some of our other shows, and we talk about how your money personality is based on your past experiences that have led up to your beliefs and habits about money. And so thinking back to my experiences as a kid, what I watched my mom, I watched her go through a really bad relationship where she was taken advantage of and financially. And what I realized is unconsciously, I had repeated the same thing throughout my whole life. So even though I had taken the time to think about what kind of relationship I want, to find a good one, to find the one in Martin, still some of these things were coming up for me. So it wasn't actually all of this experience, it was coming from past experiences as well.
Yeah. Now, in my case, for this particular event where we were talking about the software that I wanted to buy, it was, well, you're a business person, I'm a business person. If we're going to be working together, I was looking at it purely from a business perspective. And I wasn't looking at it as we're in a relationship, so, you've got to put this money in here for us to get the software. I was looking at it from a business point of view and saying, hey, we're in business, we're starting to work together, and, we can have multiple people use this software, so why don't we combine and do this? But then I thought when she wasn't, I thought it was going to be a breeze. I thought I would pitch it to her and say, hey, let's do this thing, and I thought she was going to jump on board and say, yeah, let's go for it. A lot of times when you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to get your spouse, your partner to be on board with something and not on board, it can create some friction in the relationship. So the business started to spill over into the relationship. And so that caused even more conflict, because I'm like, well, why isn't she jumping on this thing? I'm explaining why I think this would benefit our business, why I think it's a great idea, and she's not on board. And I started to feel like, well, if you're not on board with this, then how can you say you're supportive of it? So that's where in my mind things started to go. And a lot of times when we have differences of opinion, we often have to look at ourselves and say, okay, what am I contributing to this? I had to look at myself. I had to do a little bit of self-reflection and saying, well, am I not understanding where she's coming from, and I'm being too much of a pressure on her? Am I pressuring her too much to jump into doing this with me? And if she doesn't, am I going to feel like she's not all in? And so that was my perspective on it. And of course, she had a different perspective, and we had to kind of talk through this particular thing to be able to get to a resolution.
So, yeah, it's really important for us to take a look at, kind of take a step back from the situation and say, okay, what's actually happening in this situation? And are there circumstances or beliefs or fears that are coming from past experiences or past relationships? And here's the thing, that can be really scary, because if you see that you are being influenced by past experiences, that here's what came up for me, well, gosh, if I admit that some of this is coming from not necessarily Martin, but something that happened in the past, do I just let him have his way? Do I just give in to my fears? Do I just always, do I have to admit that I'm wrong and he's always right? Like, it was really scary. And so I think the biggest thing is communication. So we had to have a safe environment between the two of us where we could talk about, here's what's coming up for me. Here's some of my fears. When you say this, it's making me feel like this. And then for us to not take it personally, but try to look and see, well, could I be contributing to that fear? Or could I be causing that person's emotion? And if we just have a talk about it and we're really honest and take responsibility where we can, then that's really where you can resolve the conflict.
Well, and what came up for me was, well, is this another partner or spouse or girlfriend who's not going to be supportive of my dreams? Because that happened to me in the past, where I was in a relationship, working on my business, and in the beginning it seemed like the person was supportive of my goals and dreams and aspirations, but then it turned out they really weren't. They really didn't care all that much about it, and so they weren't as supportive about it. So then I'm thinking, well, is Chelsea not supportive about it? So I had to stop and think. So you always have to think, where are your current assumptions coming from? Where does that come from? If you're thinking some way about your partner, where's that coming from? Is that coming from a previous experience that's no longer helping you? Or is that actually in present time? Is that based on this person in front of you that you're having this issue with? Or is it something from your past influencing you? And because so much of our past influences our financial decisions. You know, society influences us, our parents and grandparents. Everybody influences us when it comes to relationships and money, because those are the examples that we have. We have the examples of relationships from people around us. We have examples of money from people around us, and how they deal with it is often how we tend to deal with our finances and our relationships.
All right, so we want to give you an action step. I want you to think about, if you're in a relationship, or you can think about a past relationship, a conflict that happened. It could have been around money, maybe it was around something else. But if you look at the situation and honestly see if there was anything from a past experience that could have been influencing your emotion or your fear, whatever came up, and see where you might be able to take responsibility for what happened in the conflict. Because we can't control what each other does. We can only control what we do. So if we can look for any places that we can take responsibility and just get some of that old junk out of there.
Get the junk out of your trunk.
Yeah, get it out of there. And then you can move forward with clear communication, and you can really resolve those issues.
So look, what we did to solve this particular conflict, of course, Chelsea ended up, she said, what did you end up doing?
He sold me.
I closed the deal. But then what happened is I started to realize.
Yeah, let's tell the people what happened.
Well, I started to realize then that, hey, this was a pressure point in our relationship. Me pushing for her to come in and do the deal with me, her being resistant. We had to explore, why is that happening? Why do I feel like she's not all in? Why does she feel like, I'm being pressuring on her? So we sat down and that's where we started to really learn how to communicate with each other and say, hey, we're just seeing this thing differently. So you tell me how you're seeing it, I'll tell you how I'm seeing it, and then we can get to a resolution.
And what happened to the software?
So actually, we did end up, we flew across country. We learned how to use the software, we implemented using the software, but then we realized we couldn't really scale with the software because, not only do we work with clients, we also work with other financial professionals. And so not everybody could afford, spending thousands of dollars on a software just so they could be able to use with clients every time. And so we couldn't scale that to where we needed it to be. So the software is just a relic now on like an old computer or something. But the lessons we learned from it still carries on, and we're passing those lessons on to you. And that's why we love talking about love and money, because it's all relationships. You have to deal with people all the time, and you have to deal with money all the time. So those are two important topics that we enjoy talking about.
And if you don't have your very own copy of our book yet, you can go to letsfightaboutmoney.com. So thank you for watching the Love and Money Show on the Wooditch Network.
See you next week.
Bye.